Hey everyone and welcome back. If you are new here then hello, my name is Zoe and this is my YouTube channel. Today I am going to give you 5 easy ways on how to lift your face using makeup, and my inspo for this really is the Foxy eye trend because I love that makeup look, and ever since that kind of started snowballing there are things that I kind of changed in my makeup routine to give me that uplifted and like elongated look. So today I'm going to give you 5 easy ways or little things that you can change in your makeup routine if you like a more uplifted makeup look, not just on the eyes but on the face as well. I do want to say though before we start this video that there is no right or wrong way to do makeup. There are no rules when it comes to makeup, which is why I love it so much. So on this side of my face I'm going to do my usual makeup routine, how I would used to do my makeup and things that I still do now, and then on this side I'm going to switch a few things around and show you some tips and tricks on how to make it look a little bit more lifted, and then you'll be able to see the difference. So I'm going to do my full face today, show you all my tips and tricks on how to get the makeup facelift, and yeah, let's zoom in and get started. I'm going to start with brows actually today because they can make such a huge difference to the shape of your face. So I'm going to fill them in today using the NYX brow pencil. Usually I use the soap brow technique, but today I'm actually going to fill them in because I know not everybody does the soap brows. So I'm using the micro brow pencil from NYX. So I'm going to start with this side first. So I'm going to fill my brow in as normal. So mine are looking a little bit sparse at the moment, so I just draw a little bit underneath and I'm going to follow my natural shape. And because my eyebrows are a little bit short, I always have to extend the tail a little bit, so I'm going to follow this down the arch as well. Sometimes it looks a little bit messy to start with. And then again on this tail area, I'm going to follow it down to the extra point that I've created, and then I simply just fill in the rest with the pencil and then I brush through as I go. Okay, so there's my simple eyebrow filled in with a pencil, but on this side I'm going to do something a little bit different. So you can see on here my eyebrow is quite rounded, so I've followed the natural shape of my brow and extended it a little bit just to make it a bit longer at the ends, whereas on this side I'm going to try and manipulate how I fill it in so it's a little bit more straight rather than rounded. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I like to kind of outline my brows first and then fill them in after. I just find it a little bit easier that way. So I'm going to come under, and then instead of extending the tail downwards, I'm going to extend it outwards. So it's just a little bit more straight. And then I can always clean it up with a bit of concealer later on, because we need to do our eye base next anyway, so. And then just fill it in, and then as I fill it in I just keep brushing it through. So now you can see the difference. This brow is slightly bit thinner because I've accentuated the arch a little bit more and extended the tail, whereas this brow I've had to kind of fill in the arch a little bit just to make my brow look a little bit straighter, and then we can clean all that up in a second when we do our eyeshadow base. So I'm actually going to set the brows in place first before we move on to eyeshadow base. So you can use a clear brow gel, a tinted brow gel. This is just a tinted brow gel from Primark. Brush the hairs up in this inner section, and then as we go around I'm going to follow the arch and brush the hairs around. Then on this side I'm going to brush all the hairs straight upwards so they set in a nice upwards way. Okay, so let's clean these up and do our eye base. I'm just using the Pure Louise base. This is in the shade 2, which is Rumour, I think. And again, with this eye, I'm going to carve the brow out. I'm going to follow my arch round, and follow the tail down, and then just pat a little bit of the base all over. And then on this very outer corner, I may need to cover some of the brow hairs just to make it look a little bit straighter. So I'm going straight out like that. Okay, so with just the brows and the eye base on, you can already see this looks slightly more lifted than this side. So let's move on to the eyes next. I'm not going to do a particularly foxy eye makeup look because I already have a tutorial on that, which I will leave, I think it's in this corner, and I want this to be suitable for everybody, so not just that particular eye trend. So I'm going to do something just quite simple, everyday soft glam, so you can kind of change this to whatever like colours or anything that you like. I'm going to use this palette, which I use all the time. I know it's getting a bit boring. It's the Nip and Fab Dark Contour. I know I use this palette all the time, but I just think it'll go really nice for this makeup look. It's something really simple and easy to use. So I'm going to start with this shade right here. I'm going to only be using like a couple of different shades, and that is it. In the centre, I'm going to do the same for both eyes, but apply them in different ways. So on this eye here, I'm going to, let me just blend that out. I'm going to apply that into my crease, just to add a little bit of definition. And then I'm tapering it off just where my eye ends here. And then I'm also pressing a little bit of that on my outer corner as well. I really like a darker outer corner, lighter inner corner. I think it's something that suits everybody as well. So again, just tapering it off where your eye finishes here. This is actually going to make your eyes look a little bit rounder. So this is really good if you're doing like a rounded spotlight eye or a rounded cut crease. So I'm not going too heavy with this. I'm doing it quite sort of blown out. I don't want any harsh lines. I'm just applying a little bit at a time, just on this outer corner. Applying the same shadow now onto this eye. So again, going into the crease first. This time I'm not ending it at the end of my eye. This time I'm going to blend it all the way out. So I'm going to apply most of it here because this is where I want most of the eyeshadow. And then any excess I'm just going to start blending out so it doesn't necessarily finish right at the end of my eye. I'm going to blow this out towards my temple. If you are nervous about it, just go kind of towards the end of your brow. But start with a light shade like I'm using and you'll find it really easy. And you can already see that this eye is starting to look a lot more elongated. This eye is looking a lot more rounder. I'm going to use a tiny little bit of a darker shade. I'm going to go in with a tiny bit of this middle shade right there. I'm using a slightly smaller brush, but still a fluffy brush because I don't want any of this to be too harsh. I want this to be more like a softer glam. So again, I'm going into my crease and on to the outer corner. As you go darker, the less you want to blend out. So I'm kind of keeping this in more of a concentrated area. I'm not using much of this at all either. I'm going to go into my crease again, a little bit on this outer corner, and then just buff a little bit out. I'm kind of just flicking this shade so it's not going out as far as the first one. Okay, see how that's a lot more elongated and kind of lifted up, whereas this one is kind of just staying quite round. So I'm not going to do any eyeliner. I'm going to use my eyeshadow as eyeliner because I want to keep this as simple as possible for you. You can do an eyeliner if you want to. You can absolutely do whatever you want because there's no rules. So I'm going to choose the darkest one this time. I've just got a little smudger brush. The main reason I'm doing this anyway is because we're going to be applying lashes. I'm going to just take a little bit of the liner and I'm going to just rub it into my lash line, press it in. Once I'm done, I've got a towel here because I've stopped wiping my brushes on my trousers, which I used to do all the time. So I'm just going to wipe it off on a towel and then I'm just going to go and just smudge it out so it doesn't look like a really harsh line. And on this side, I'm going to try and do it a little bit thicker on the outer corner to keep that elongated shape. Whereas on this eye, I've just kind of gone straight across in a line. It doesn't look bad because I smudged it out and blended it. It looks absolutely fine. But if you want it to look a little bit more lifted up, if you're not doing an eyeliner, then try and do it so it's thicker on this outer corner and then thin coming to the inner corner. So I'm doing it quite thick here, and then any excess I just kind of taper off to the inner corner. I like to do this technique especially if I'm not doing like a winged eyeliner, because it kind of helps create the shape without having to do a liner, and it also helps disguise your lashes without doing a winged eyeliner either. Okay, now the last thing that I'm going to do is use this shade right here just to set this inner corner. So I'm going to use just a little flat brush, pick up some of that, and then in this area where we've applied no shadow, that's where I'm going to apply it. It's just in this inner corner. It's not too bright, but it's just enough just to set it and just make everything kind of blend in nicely together. Okay, so we've done brows, we've done eyeshadow. The third step is lashes. So for lashes, I'm going to use the exact same lash for each eye, but I've actually changed one of the lashes for this side. So I'm going to be using these, which are the Girls with Attitude Mythical Lash in the style Merbabe. So this is what the lash looks like. I have worn these before, absolutely love them, they're really, really pretty. This is the full lash. I haven't had to cut this one down at all. It fits my eye really nice. So then for this side, I've actually cut it down a little bit. So I'm going to be doing like a 3/4/half lash. I think I've used about 3/4 of the lash, not just a half, but sometimes I just cut them in half and use half. Sometimes I do like a 3/4. So I'll show you what that side looks like. So I've cut off, that is lash, and that's, I don't know how I could show you, that's what I've cut off, so just a little bit. You can do this with any lash as well, like a more natural lash. You can actually get half lashes, which are easy. Another thing that you can do if you wanted it a little bit more, if you're doing a bit more of a heavier eye, the extra bit that you've cut off this, you can actually use your eyelash glue and stick on the very outer corner, so it'll just make it a little bit thicker and a bit heavier on the outer corner. That looks really nice if you're doing more of a heavier eye. If you want a tutorial on things like this, then please let me know, because I've got so many tips and tricks that I can share with you guys. So as I say, these are the exact same eyelash. So this eye, you can see, is one, a lot more rounded, and it's a little bit more heavier, especially in this outer corner. Whereas this eye, you can see, is a lot more kind of V-line shaped, a little bit more almond shaped than this one. Okay, so step 4 of how to lift your face using makeup is actually the concealer slash highlighter step. So I'm just going to quickly do my face with foundation, because that is exactly the same for both sides. So for that, I'm going to use my L'Oreal Pro Glow. I'm using the shade 204 mixed with 205 because I did do a little bit of self-tan the other night. So I'm going to just quickly apply that all over, and then I will be back in 2 seconds. So we're going to move on to concealer slash highlight now. So this is something that I've recently discovered. There's a lot of hacks like tutorials on this on TikTok and Instagram, and I've started doing this ever since the foxy eye trend kind of went viral, because this under eye concealer technique like really helps to lift your eye and accentuate that. So I'm going to use the Tarte Shape Tape today. I'm undecided on what colour, what shade to use. I think I'm just going to go in with light sand because my eyes aren't actually that red today. On this eye, I'm going to use the usual technique that I usually do. Honestly, this side is not wrong in any sense. I do my concealer like this all the time, but if I want a more uplifted look, then there's some things that I do switch around and change. So I'm using light sand. So on this eye, I'm going to do my usual, which is like a triangle. And then on this eye, I'm going to change it a little bit. So I'm just going to come just in this inner corner here. I'm going to use a little bit of the concealer to sharpen up my eyeshadow. You can also do this if you're doing a winged eyeliner as well. I always sharpen up my wing anyway. So just in that area, and then a little bit around the nose, and then a tiny bit just underneath this part of the lip. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop a little bit on the chin on that side, because usually I just do my chin a little bit on my nose. And then I'm going to do my forehead because that's the same for both sides. So let's start to blend this out. I always leave my eyes to last no matter what technique I'm doing, because I feel like I get a little bit more extra coverage that way. So I'm just going to blend out the concealer on my chin first. I use the same side as I've used my foundation. I just find it blends better. And then if you do need to add a little bit more, you can do. And then blending out my forehead. Okay, then I'm going to start on this side and just start to blend this out. I kind of just keep tapping over it until it blends, because this foundation is quite a thick consistency. So I bring it down so it like covers this whole sort of triangle. Okay, and then I'm just going to tap. You can use a little brush to blend this in as well, but I just find that takes forever. So I'm just lightly tapping over. I want most of it to be blended in this very inner corner, then any of the rest I just kind of tape off so it doesn't like come down too far. I'm going to try and keep that sharp line to begin with, and then I can just pat over it with my finger if it looks a little bit stupid. But I'm blending this all the way back to my hairline. And then you can just pounce over just to blend out any harshness. Okay, so even before contour or anything, you can definitely tell a difference. This side of my face instantly looks a little bit lower than this side. It looks a little bit higher. And again, my eyes are different. This one looks a little bit lower, a little bit more heavier on the outer corner, whereas this one looks a lot more elongated and lifted. So let's move on to contour now. So I'm using my Morphe contour stick because I absolutely love this. So I have been usually applying my contour like in the hollows of my cheekbones, but just recently I have been doing it a little bit differently. So this is how or where I would usually apply it. So just in this vicinity, this hollow of my cheek. And then my forehead, to be honest, pretty much on both sides it's the same. So I'll do my forehead on this side. Don't like to do too much on my forehead. So instead of applying in the hollows of my cheeks, I actually apply it just on my cheekbone instead. So just here, you can see, so that's a lot more lower than this side. I apply about the same amount, it's just I apply it in like different areas. Also, I just blend it back into my hairline. I don't like to do too much on my forehead really. And then again on this side. So my usual way of blending my contour out, I would just do like little swirly motions and blend it down towards my jawline. And at the same time, I'm kind of buffing it up so it kind of bronzes at the same time. And on this side, I kind of just like tap it in. I want to keep it as high as possible rather than blending it down, because the further that you blend it down, your face is going to look a little bit longer. So I just want to kind of tap it in, and then I'm flicking it up onto my cheek just so it kind of bronzes again, bronzes at the same time. Have got a couple of extra tips just on how to finish this off. So I'm next going to set. Setting is pretty much for me the same, because I can't use a lot of powder. So on this side I'm applying my powder to everywhere that I applied concealer to highlight. I'm using a little bit of extra powder today because the foundation that I've used is actually really glowy, so I'm just going to keep pressing it in until it all goes. I'm not going to necessarily bake or anything today. And then again on this outer corner where we sharpened up our shadow, and then in this inner corner I'll have to use my other end of the sponge. though it's a translucent powder, it will just brighten the area a little bit. And then I am just on both sides going to just do a little bit around my nose. I'm just going to end up wearing my makeup like this all day today and it's going to look so strange. And then just a little bit in the centre of my forehead, and then I'm just going to tap that powder in. So when we're finishing off with our bronzers and blushes and things like that, just be careful of where we're applying them. So I'm going to try and keep as close to my contour areas, which I've done my contour on as much as I possibly can. So my bronzer I'm going to use, well, probably a mix. I'm going to use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. And I'm actually, because I have tanned a little bit, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of that middle shade there. Okay, so on this side, I'm going to apply my bronzer all over where I applied that contour. I apply them in the same way, so I always press my bronzer on first because I haven't set the foundation that much. I don't want to move it around. And then I do a little bit on my cheeks as well. And then I do the same around my forehead. Okay. And then on this side, again I'm using the same brush, but I'm flicking upwards this time and I'm keeping it right on top. I wish my baby hairs would behave today. Right on top of where we applied that bronzer, and I am going a bit onto my cheeks as well because I do like to do that. So I'm keeping it a lot higher than this side. Let's move on to blush. So I'm just using this peachy one. I think this is from Ruby Cosmetics. I've had this for ages, but I do like the colour. And then on this side, again, I'm keeping it up on top of where I applied that bronzer. So I like to just apply it everywhere, like even all the way back here and on the very, very high points of my cheek here. So when you smile, rather than applying it here on your cheek, right on the top. Okay, so now I'm going to just quickly finish this off with the under eyes. So I'm going to just go in with that lightest shade in there. On this eye, I'm going to go all underneath my under eye, just all the way along my lash line. And then on this side, I'm only going to come in as far as I've done my false lash, so 3/4 to halfway. Just meeting up with that shadow in the outer corner. This is optional doing this, but I feel like because my under eyes get quite creased up, I have to put something underneath my under eye because it kind of disguises it a little bit. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is lips, which I'm going to do the same for both sides. So I'm using, what's this, Bite Me from Morphe, which is one of my favourite lip liners at the minute. And I do like to overline mine. And then I'm just using a liquid lipstick from Me Cosmetics. It's in the shade number 5. Okay, so those are all of my tips on how to get a lifted face with makeup. It's only very, very subtle because I still wanted this side to be wearable because I would wear my makeup like this, it's absolutely fine. But if you do want to switch a few things up just to get a more lifted look, those are the few things that I would change and where I place product and things just to make everything look a little bit more lifted. I really hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you did down in the comments below, and if you want to see more like tips and tricks and hacks like this, then please let me know. I really hope you did enjoy it. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe as well, and I will see you next week in the next one. Bye.